Taiwan Special, episode 2 for the week. Yesterday, I did my an analysis from part of the plot, not the ending, but part of the plot. I gave a controversial interpretation. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll like it. If you didn't know Game of Thrones, I made it so you could follow it. But I tied that into democracy and how good people need to do good things. If good people do nothing, it's a problem. And I talk about that, and I connected that to Taiwan. That's yesterday. It was 20 minutes. You got to hang in there, but it's juicy if you get through it all and you can understand. If you didn't listen to it, go back. And it was 20 minutes. I might try to make this shorter to save your time. I know people, Jesse, talk longer. We want you to talk longer. Maybe. Okay. Okay. Today, I'm going to talk about Hong Kong. There's a law in Hong Kong that's being proposed, and it's an extradition law. And what this would do is this would grant, Hong Kong would have extradition with China, which means that if the Chinese decide that someone anywhere in the world is a criminal and that person happens to be in Hong Kong police can arrest that person and then extradite them to China. All right. Here's there's a lot that's being said about this. I'm just going to summarize for you the political problem that this is presenting. Hong Kong is supposed to be, there are a lot of countries that let their citizens, that have the citizen exchange thing. Like you can just go visit Hong Kong and then walk out. A lot of countries treat Hong Kong as if it's a country for visa purposes. Hong Kong has special visa permission. People can go from other countries into Hong Kong. Hong Kongers can take their Hong Kong passport and go into other countries. And usually the way it works with all that is, like the U.S. and Canada. Like, let's say you can go to Canada for 90 days and then you've got to leave. Or whatever. Let's just say, I don't even know what the law is. But let's say it's 90 days. You can go to Canada and then you can leave. If it's 90 days, then if it's 90 days in Canada, then it's 90 days in the U.S. If Americans can go to Canada for 90 days, then Canadians can come to America for 90 days. It's usually equal. If America charges $100 for an application, for a visa application, then Canada will charge $100 for a visa application. It's reciprocal. It's usually two ways. So Hong Kong has this exchange with many countries in the world. People from Hong Kong can go into those other countries for, say, 90 days, and people from those other countries can go to Hong Kong for 90 days. Okay. If Hong Kong passes this extradition law with China, the international community would say Hong Kong is no longer a separate country. And then all of that free visa exchange stuff between Hong Kong and many countries in the world would evaporate because they don't have those free in and out over the border exchanges with China. Those countries would say, we're now treating Hong Kong like China, and so that means our citizens aren't coming back and forth anymore. Okay. That's the situation that we're looking at. And if if Hong Kong enacts its extradition law with China, the concern is that other countries have a different view of the legal justice court system than China does. How China's due process of law is different from many of those Western countries. I'm not judging here. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just trying to explain the facts of this. Europe and America, the West, the westernized South Pacific, so we're talking Australia, New Zealand. The West has its concept of a legal justice system. This is a law. This is due process of court. There's, these things are illegal. These things are not illegal. If someone breaks the law, this is what we do. That's different in the West as opposed to how it is in China. And the West will say, if China's different legal justice system now has to apply to anyone who's walking through Hong Kong, then the restrictions we have to protect our citizens on China should also apply to Hong Kong, which means no more visa exchanges. If there's no more visa exchanges, international business dries up. And Hong Kong is no longer tourism. Now, the interesting thing is, or how did I say that? Hong Kong's tourism industry is gone. It evaporates. Hong Kong's theme, its slogan is Asia's World City. Hong Kong presents itself. It says it at the airport, all over the place. Asia's World City. Hong Kong is Asia's World City. Well, it's not a world city if the world can't go there. So, I think like 11 or so leaders from the EU went and talked to the CEO of Hong Kong. Hong Kong doesn't have a president. They have a CEO. They went and talked with the CEO, and they said, we're concerned. And Carrie Lam, the CEO, doesn't care. People are warning her. They're telling her this is how the world works. This is what people are going to do. And she doesn't care. She's pushing forward with it anyway. Now, I don't know how this is all going to play out. I don't know. Let's say Carrie Lam doesn't warn Beijing. I mean, Beijing wants to have extradition. I mean, of course, if Hong Kong gets extradition with China, then of course China was requesting it. I mean, if Venezuela gets extradition with America, of course America wanted that extradition. If Cuba gets extradition with Vietnam, then of course one of those countries, were kind of pushing it with each other. So extradition is something where both countries push for it. Okay, so China's pushing for extradition. And if Carrie Lam, the CEO of Hong Kong, if she doesn't tell Beijing, you have a close relationship with Hong Kong, but if we pass this law, we're cut off from the world and Hong Kong's no longer special to you. If she doesn't convince Beijing of that and convince Beijing to not push for it in the right way, I don't know what's going to happen. Because if Hong Kong passes this law and everybody leaves Hong Kong, Beijing might be angry and blame Carrie Lam. Why didn't you tell us? You're mismanaging. I don't know what's going to... They might say, yay! Do tell those Westerners! But then it's no longer Asia's world city. Western investment dries up. Is that going to surprise the Chinese? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that would seem obvious to me. Like, you don't do this, man. But China does it. They never cease to surprise me in the, I would never do that types of things that I would never do. So so that's the situation, and that's what's at stake. And those are the surprises that will be coming. I don't know what in the world is going to happen with this. I tell you, I've been in Taiwan 10 years, and like Gandalf said about hobbits, you can learn all there is to know about them in a month, and after 100 years, they'll still surprise you. And that's Taiwan. I've been here 10 years. I'm still learning about fruits and things that grow and bugs. I saw a weird bug I'd never seen before the other day. I had to pick him up and take him out of the building. I touched him. I thought he was dead, And then I touched him again. He starts wiggling. I think he was playing possum or strange bug or whatever he is, So I see weird things all the time. And I know it's at stake. I know exactly what the West is going to do. I don't know if... Okay, here's what I don't know. I don't know if Beijing is capable... several things. If they're capable of understanding that this is what's going to happen, or maybe they do understand how Hong Kong could get totally isolated from the world, and they want it to happen anyway because they think the rest of the world is bad because it's not controlled by Beijing. Beijing and, Daenerys Targaryen, we talked about that in, my Game of Thrones analysis connection to Taiwan the other day. That's the scary thing is that if Taiwan is like King's Landing, then China is like Daenerys with the dragon, So I don't know if China wants this to happen and thinks that it's good because I know what is good. Or if they don't want it to happen but don't know that it's going to happen either. Or they don't know that it's going to happen, but if it happens, they won't care. Or if it happens, they'll be angry about it and blame Carrie Lam. I don't know where their way of thinking is going to lead us. I really don't know. All right. So those are the questions I have to be answered, and those are the things that I understand. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll see. Well, that was fun talking about Hong Kong. See you tomorrow.